Today on the show, we have Jan Morel from Morel Homes with At Properties. Jan prides himself on putting his clients' interests before his own. He's committed to helping his clients stay informed every step of the way by easily accommodating and being accessible, giving them what they need to make the best possible decision. He provides his clients with creative solutions and fresh ideas to any obstacle that arises. And when you work with Jan towards the sale or purchase of a home, you have a real estate partner for life, whose integrity and commitment will garnish you the attention and focus you deserve and the expertise you need. In a market where no two homes are identical, this skill makes Jan an invaluable resource to home sellers and home buyers. You can rely on his thorough understanding of the market and how properties should be priced to maximize your ROI. And as an expert marketer, Jan combines the latest social media opportunities with traditional strategies to provide maximum exposure for his listings. Please visit Jan and his team at morelhomes.com. That's MOREL homes.com. Jan, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, us too. This is, you were recommended by actually several of our guests. So we're excited to meet with you and have you on the show. And I know our listeners are interested as well to hear, sort of how you grow, how you've grown your business and even what you're doing now in light of, our current climate. But we'd love to start at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in real estate?
Sure. So I'm actually a civil engineer undergrad. So I went to University of Illinois. I have an engineering degree. And as I graduated, I got into the field of engineering, helping developers design their roads and sewers for new construction. And it was really exciting. But over time, I realized that what I did was just one small piece of the puzzle related to how development works, and it was an exciting time. There was a lot of activity. This is in the late 90s, and so there was really a lot of opportunities, but I was kind of only one small piece, and my career kind of developed into project managing for developments, and there was still more that I wanted to do. So I ended up leaving kind of one of the larger firms, joined a smaller firm, and what we realized is that one of us needed to get their broker's license so that we could have access to information that is only available to brokers regarding land opportunities.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I went off, and in 1 month I learned, studied and passed the test. And so I had my license. And so for about 4 years, or no, I guess it would have been more like 6 years, I had my license, but it wasn't my core competency. I was still project management developments. But what happened in 2012 was I made a personal decision that I did not want to be working in exurban developments any longer. I wanted to live and work in the same town that I live. And I wanted to control my destiny. And so I knew that I had a really good reputation in the town that I lived in terms of what people thought of me, their trust level in me. And so I decided to just dive headfirst into residential real estate in 2013. So it's only been 7 years, but I had a pretty fast start. Let's just say that.
Now, when it is a huge shift to going from working, for someone, obviously, to yourself. And also, I guess your background in civil engineering would give you, a good understanding of real estate, or at least that part of it. But when you got started, was that difficult for you to make that transition?
Yeah. So one of the things that kept me from doing something like this earlier was this belief in my head that I don't know how to be a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. I'm an engineer.
Right.
And what it turns out is that I'm not sure that's anybody can be a salesperson, I think is the main message I wanted to make about that, because it seems like it's a hard shift. But if you look at sales not as like trying to sell something to like earn money, but as in sales is as creating a solution for somebody, then the transition's much easier because essentially what I learned to do was that there's a lot of people that I knew that had that themselves, their friends, or their family all had a problem that they needed to solve. And that problem was housing in one shape or form. And one thing about being an engineer, a trained engineer, is I'm incredibly good at problem solving.
Sure.
So I look at the transaction process as actually just getting from point A to point B and always tackling issues head on. And so that was the aha moment for me, was when I realized that actually I know exactly how to do this. The hardest part for me was convincing people that while my friends and family and my sphere of influence could trust me with, a school board issue at my church, or a zoning question at the village hall, the things I had been doing before I became a real estate agent. Did they, was I ready for them? And as a real estate agent, and luckily I had some people, believe in me, and then things really took off. So, I mean, my first year, I think I had about 5.5 or 6 million, I think, in volume, something like that. But by this,
I want to pause just for a
yeah,
moment to really honor that. To have done 5 to 6 million in your first year of production is an incredible success. For all of our listeners, they already know that, but I just wanted to pause. And you're too humble to really spend much time on that, I'm sure. But I want to spend a moment, just recognize that that's an incredible first year for anybody, whether you have a background that's loosely related or adjunctly related to real estate or not. So congrats on that first year even.
well, I appreciate it. And I didn't really understand that, I think, as I was doing it. Like I said, it required a few key people to trust me,
Sure.
to launch me. And there was another, I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but there was a really another major moment in my first, few months of, diving in headfirst into residential real estate that really set me on a great path. And I can share that with you if you'd like.
Please.
Okay. So, you know, this fantastic managing broker, her name's Nina Fotopoulos. And she was our managing broker for probably about 4 or 5 years at Coldwell Banker. Then she went into becoming like a vice president, like a larger role. But she's like, Jan, I really believe in you. And I was like, well, I don't know if I believe in myself. She's like, well, I believe in you. I interview people all the time who want to, take this on as a career. And I just know when I feel it. And I said, okay, that's really nice to know. And so it's important for someone to help you by telling you that they believe in you. But I said, listen, I know who I am and my friends know who I am, but I feel like I need to have something that's recognizable about myself. This is a highly competitive market in the Hinsdale, Clarendon Hills area.
Yes.
There's a lot of really good agents that are around here at my firm and other firms, and I enjoy working with them every day. But their brands already existed, and I was newer, and so I went off. She recommended that I inquire with a real estate marketing company out in California. Back then, it was called Hobbs Herder. Okay. And the guy who was running it was Greg Herder. And at this point, there was no Hobbs left. It was just Greg Herder. But I decided to essentially, I hired them to help me create a brand that was exactly who I am. Okay. So one of the biggest mistakes I think people make in any type of business is having a brand that doesn't actually match who they are.
Yeah, that's such an interesting statement, and I fully agree with you. And I think we've done 65 episodes, I think. And this is the first time we're really talking about branding. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, here's everybody has a gift to share,
Yeah.
all of us. And so, leaning into that gift is the way to unlock your potential. And so, this real estate company was like, they essentially said, okay, they interviewed me. I had to fill out like pages and pages of questions. And then they said, okay, we'll see you in a month. And I said, a month? They're like, yeah. Our writers, they need a month to think about this. I said, okay, that's interesting. I never thought about that. Writers and creative people, they need to be left alone. You can't pressure them.
Right.
Because if you pressure them, you squelch their creativity.
Yeah.
So they came back with this brand, and you can see it on my ribbon on my YouTube channel or on my Facebook business page, and it's Jan Morel, committed to your success. And people at first, so when I read it at first, I'm like, that seems kind of, it's like not like the most like
tangible,
like the most easy to remember thing, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing in it about real estate.
Right.
Okay. And they're like, Jan, we've listened to you, we've read about you, you've written us, you've told us about yourself, and everything that you're talking about and is all about how essentially you take something from start to finish, you never quit, you're committed to seeing a positive result, and that's why people are going to want to work with you. And I said, I think you're right. So I included in that marketing package was a website, which I've subsequently gotten a new website. But back then I had my own personal website. I wasn't using Coldwell Banker's website. And the idea was I need to have my own brand outside of Coldwell Banker. And now since then, 7 years later, everyone has their own brand. But it always cracks me up when I see brands where there's always a key or a house shape.
Right.
And it's like that has nothing to do
Right.
with who you are. You're not telling anybody who you are. And so anyways, I had real estate agents. I heard them making fun of my brand at first. It was hilarious. I was like, okay, make fun of it all. That's fine. A year later, I was selling more homes than them. Okay? And so the way I guess in a nutshell, what I would say about having a personal brand is that just have your brand match who you are and then live it every day. So if you're a crazy person, but that's who you are, like lean into your craziness. There's going to be other people that like that craziness. It's always more important to have a dedicated group of people that would want your type of service, even if that means that some groups won't, than being unnoticeable.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think we don't talk enough about branding. We talk a lot about service, and we talk a lot about what we do for clients in either a general or specific way, but to have your own brand, your own sort of small mission statement that you're able to articulate to your customers, and to have it authentically reflect who you actually are as a human is in the strengths that you possess is a really important thing. Because I'm on your website now, I'm looking at it, and it right up front does say Jan Morel, committed to your success. And if that's true, if that's if I'm thinking of hiring Jan to help me buy or sell or rent, and I know that that's who he is, well, that's really all I need to know, that somebody is committed to my success, because actually that's what most people are looking for. They're looking for someone who is actually committed. And the fact that reflects, you as who you are inside is a great match. And so I would say that was a good project to have a third party company help you with that and drill down and identify.
It's not cheap.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But you have to invest in yourself as a real estate agent. And so I've had this discussion with a lot of new people that have entered the business. I'm always willing to talk to new people that are looking to get into real estate and share with them some of the things that I've done, I'm not scared of that at all. I think there's plenty of room for all the competent agents. You know, if schleps want to come and go from this business, they will. That's going to happen automatically. I don't have to do anything.
Right.
They won't try. They don't work hard. That's going to automatically happen. But, you know, new, young, up and coming agents that are dedicated to elevating the craft of being a realtor, I'm all for that.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of people come and go in 7 years, and it's amazing. You know, you've had a tremendous level of success. I wanted to ask you specifically because you're west of the city of Chicago. For our listeners, Jan, of course, works in many areas, but he hyper focuses in his hometown. He talked about that earlier, which is Clarendon Hills and the surrounding communities. Can you tell our listeners how important was it for you to pick a geographic location and sort of make that your true north? Again, not to say that you won't help outside of those boundaries, but making the majority of your focus that area. Has that really helped your business? And also from a branding perspective, has that helped as well?
Well, okay. So it's a good question. As I mentioned at the beginning, my goal was to work and live in the same area. But I talked to other agents, and I listened to my managing broker. I listened to her experience, and I trusted in her. And all signs pointed to the fact that whatever you focus on grows. Okay, so if you want to focus on real estate all over Chicagoland, you're going to get more real estate all over Chicagoland. Okay.
Good point.
You're going to focus on only doing business within a 5-mile radius of Clarendon Hills, then that's the only place you're going to get new business. But there's plenty of business there.
Yeah.
There's plenty to go. There's plenty of people wanting to buy and sell to make ends meet for me. And so there was a time, I remember there was a time where someone, someone had recommended me to a friend who lived in Elmhurst.
Right.
And some people would call me crazy, but I said, I don't take listings in Elmhurst.
And for our listeners, we should break in for a moment and say Elmhurst is not that far away from Clarendon Hills. I mean, it's a distance, but we're not talking about a giant distance. But this is to your point.
It's 5 miles away, or 6 or something, or I don't remember. It's about 15 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: I'm in Elmhurst all the time with buyers because buyers look in larger areas. So it is totally normal for me to have buyers say, I want to look at Elmhurst, Hinsdale, and Downers Grove, or something like that. So I'm in Elmhurst all the time. Now, it doesn't mean I have to take listings there.
Right.
And this is the main reason. I can't service my clients with the effort that I promise them when I have to drive 15, 20 minutes to get there. I won't do it. I know that I'll take a shortcut and not do the thing that I would do for the local closer listing. So why I'm doing them a disservice? So why would I want to do that? And then the other thing is so let's say I sell that house in Elmhurst. That's just going to get me another listing in Elmhurst.
Right.
So that's
a good problem, but still a problem. Right.
Yeah. And now I've got another listing in Elmhurst that I don't want to. So, and I'm not trying to pick on Elmhurst. I think the idea is that I've watched some awesome younger agents come in who have just focused so heavily on one area. And I drive around that area and I see their signs everywhere. And I'm like, that's awesome. You're dominating that area. I don't see their sign anywhere else, but it doesn't need to be anywhere else.
Right. That's a super powerful statement. We've talked a lot over the years with episodes or interviews with agents who pretty much all say focus in one area, but this idea of what you focus on, you will get more of is really important. So you're saying, well, even though Elmhurst is 5 miles, 15 minutes away, and knowing yourself saying, I might not actually go above and beyond to the extent that I would for someone here in my local community. And it's better for me to refer it out to someone who specializes there. And maybe that broker in Elmhurst would think about you the next time they have a a Clarendon Hills client.
And that has happened. That has absolutely happened. I also don't do real estate in the city of Chicago. In fact, I just made a referral this morning to another broker in the city because I'm not an expert there. All I would be doing is my client a disservice for my personal gain, and that is the beginning of the end.
I get a sense that integrity is very, very important to you. It seems that you have your business and your practice set up with a very specific set of guidelines and rules, and again, it's related to your tagline, committed to your success. And if you feel like you're unable to give that highest level of service simply because it's not your area of focus, you're willing to to refer that to another agent so that client can achieve success.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I'm at the home office. It's,
Everyone is.
I know. And I'm trying to remember where we were, but, I forgot where we were at.
Well, just the idea of being hyper local. And I also imagine that from a branding perspective and you being able to be out in the community, it's much easier when you're focused in one area to make yourself more visible and be more active in the community when it's just one area.
That's right. And so all of my marketing is centered around the core area that I need to maintain a base of business in. And I tend to I want to be the main sponsor of anything that I'm involved in. And if that means not sponsoring something at all, then that's fine. Like you can't sponsor everything, but I think one of the things that people do that I just think you just got to be smart about how you spend your money. And so the idea of quarter page ads every issue, that makes no sense. I watch agents do it all the time. When I started my first year, part of my branding idea, again, I needed to get people to know who I was in a sea of sharks. Okay.
Sure.
And so I was in every other issue of a very popular magazine. People didn't know that I wasn't in every issue. They had no idea.
Right.
They can't remember that. But they get every issue, but they see me every other one. And then I would flip through that magazine and I would see this small little ad in the corner, every single episode. And I'm like, I might be the only person who noticed it only because I was looking for who else was advertising in there.
Sure.
But the average person isn't seeing it. And the same goes for event sponsorships, all that type of stuff. It's that I want to be the main sponsor, and I am in most cases.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And also from just a knowledge perspective, I'm sure feel that you know more about real estate in Clarendon Hills and the surrounding areas than the rest of, and obviously you're a humble person, but just sheer knowledge objectively, you must have more. And even doing the 7 years, you probably just know more than other brokers who maybe dabble in and out of the area.
Well, every agent has their main focused area. And for me, it's Clarendon Hills. And so what has happened is that, so over the last, for the last 4 or 5 years in a row, I've sold the most real estate in this town. And what has that garnered me? That means that when I have other top agents in the area who know me and know that I focus in this neighborhood, they come to me with their buyer needs. They'll be like, hey, I got buyers. What listings do you have coming on that aren't on the market just yet? Or vice versa. I have a listing coming on. Do you have any buyers? I'll get you in first. These are all things that now, that over the last, 4 or 5 years have put my clients in a position to outperform everybody else because people know who to call when they have a potential client. They want insider info, and I have it. And being a smaller town, remember Clarendon Hills is only 8,000 people. So this is a small town with it's a 1.5 square miles. And in 1.5 square miles, I pretty much know all the tricky spots in town. I know the good streets. I know which areas have had water issues. Let's just say that. Why? Because during major storms, I drive around. I want to see it with my own eyes. So yes, I mean, hey, by the way, the agent that I referred this business to in the city this morning, who's in Chicago, um, he's like this is perfect. He goes, I know all the buildings, I know all their assessments, I know which buildings have problems, which don't, which have special assessments coming. I'm like, that is awesome. That's exactly what I don't know.
Right. And nor could you easily even get that information. You'd have to do a tremendous amount of research, and maybe even then you still wouldn't, because you wouldn't have had all those years of experience. So
right.
It's funny. I was thinking back. I live in the city here in an area called River North, and obviously you know that, but just to our listeners, it's a little part of our city here. And I remember about maybe even before I got into this business, I saw a billboard, and it said, no, it was before I got in this business. I was in IT, and I was looking to live in River North, and I saw a billboard, and it said, and it's actually subsequently, this gentleman's been on our show. His name's Michael Rosenblum. He's I forget I think he's at Berkshire Hathaway. Anyway, doesn't matter, but really nice guy. And he had a billboard, and it didn't even say his name on it. It just said Mr. River North. .com, and I don't think it exists anymore, but it said underneath it, I've sold more homes in River North than any other agent. And it was a huge number, like hundreds of homes. And I was thinking, and of course I at this time didn't even know any real estate agents, and I said, well, if I was going to buy a place in River North, I guess I'm going with that guy, because he is like, that's his brand. He clearly is having success, and unless he's lying, he's sold more homes than anyone. And I just remember thinking at first, like, I sort of thought, oh, that's a really in your face sort of ad. And then I went, yeah, but it's a really smart branding play, because that's who he is. And again, I think he's expanded a little bit since then. But I thought, sort of to your point about, being the Clarendon, and Clarendon Hills is a much smaller area. First, when I saw the Mr. River North ad, I thought, well, he's really limiting himself. I mean, I didn't know anything. I thought, well, that's kind of it. And then I thought, oh no, actually that's really, really smart. So you would think also in an area of 8,000 homes, I think there'd probably be a lot of listeners maybe who live in more rural areas where there aren't large populations. Jan lives not very far from the city. He's not that far away. And he's obviously, there's a million other suburbs bordering where you are as well. But just a hyper focus in that one area really takes a lot of courage, I think, to think, well, this is my area. There's enough business for me, and I'm going to be able to make a name for myself. How long did it take you before you felt like you really had a good handle on the real estate, just information about real estate in Clarendon Hills? Did it take years, or was it quicker than that?
Well, again, I was on the zoning board here in my town for 6 years, so I knew the lay of the land, and I'm an engineer, so like maps are like ingrained in my head. I think so that part wasn't difficult. I think that I didn't believe I had truly kind of created a sustainable lifestyle. I feel like it was the end of so my first year was really only like 8 months. And then at the end of the second year, when I had 13 million in volume the second year, wow, that's when I was like, okay, I think, I think this is going to work out here. And I was like, boy, and I was looking up at some of these people that were selling, 20, 30, 40 million. I'm like, I'm never going to get there. And, it's gone well. I will say this about Mr. River North. And this can happen to anybody.
Sure.
Where is Mr. River North today? Right? So the question is, did Mr. River North burn out? Did Mr. River North, is he still around? Maybe he's around. I have no idea. But there are stories out there where sometimes agents can burn out, or if they're not actually living up to the the expectations they're setting, things can fall apart. All you have is your reputation.
Yeah.
So while it may be limiting to focus on an area that has 8,000 residents and 2,000 some homes or whatever, it does allow me to provide that level of effort that you can only do when you know you have a 2-minute drive to your listing,
Right.
or a walk to your listing. And but that's what they tell their friends, and then they tell their friends.
Yeah.
And that's the level of service that then kind of makes sure that you have consistent business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's a bit of a misnomer to think, well, don't limit yourself to working in an area that's not as heavily populated as maybe a neighboring community. Because if you think about it, it's easier to be the big fish in the smaller pond. It takes a lot more work to become that bigger fish, of course, and you have to know. Your knowledge your skill set and knowledge has to be higher than anyone also playing in that community. But boy, I'm so glad that you shared that, because I think there's a lot of our listeners who think, well, maybe I should start expanding my geographic area. And until you've even mastered one area, you can be that big fish, and it takes time. It takes years, even for someone obviously like Jan, who's had tremendous success, pretty quickly, and obviously continued success. I would love to ask you how things have changed. We are now, as the time of recording this, we're still at a stay-at-home environment here in Illinois. Realtors are deemed essential, so thankfully they can still work to some extent. Other states, it's not quite that way. How has your business shifted? Are you still as busy as you were? Are you busy in a different way? What's shifted for you?
Okay, so good question, and I get this question a lot, like pretty much all the time.
Sure.
From friends that are in town. I'm walking the dog. That's the first thing someone wants to ask me. But luckily so far my family's healthy. Who knows? We could have had this thing and it's just asymptomatic. We have no idea. Okay.
Right.
So, what the bottom line is that showings are down 50%.
Sure.
But contracts are not, they're down 25% or something like that. So what's happening is that the buyers that are coming out to look at homes, they're motivated. They're serious buyers. They're not tire kickers. No one's tire kickering. So it's actually a little bit nicer for the sellers to not have randoms walking around that really aren't serious. I'm selling about a house a week right now, but the average price of what I'm selling is lower than what it has been in the past, meaning that there's my less expensive homes are still selling at the same speed that they have in the past. What's more difficult is the higher end homes. So those are taking more time, but that's been happening for years. We've had a slow, upper end market here in Clarendon Hills and the western suburbs. For the last 4 or 5 years, it's been slow because we have net negative migration out of this state. And so as the property taxes go up and our state's condition gets even more difficult to deal with, everybody's trying to get into taxes or 10,000 or less and stuff like that. And that means that we have a lot of downsizers that are looking to get down, and we have a lot of first-time home buyers. So that 400 to 700 range is like totally fine. Like it's like there's plenty of buyers. It's above that is more difficult. And so, but nonetheless, we're still transacting. We're following all the rules. We're not having open houses, although I'm using Facebook Live for virtual tours or in virtual open houses, excuse me. And so if anybody goes to my business page, you'll see they're all there. And then I've been posting them on my YouTube channel after, because what happens is that when somebody calls about wanting a showing or like, hey, tell me a little bit more about that house, I'll be like, hey, just go to my YouTube channel or send them a link. Say, here, you can watch my Facebook open house. It's 30 minutes long. And so their clients can look at it. So we're all creating new normals of how to function. And I think, my opinion is that as a profession, real estate is doing better than a lot of other professions. Okay. And so when I've talked to some of my attorney friends, and they have nothing to do because nobody's suing anybody. Okay. And you can't go to court, and everything's being postponed. So like they really can't, they're not able to function as well. And so real estate being an essential business in Illinois was a critical part of that stay order. And don't get me wrong, like I don't really like going on showings right now. Like every time I got to put a mask on, gloves, I'm sanitizing my hands, and I have to come back home to a house with a wife and 3 daughters and say, I hope I didn't bring it home with me.
Sure.
Like, I don't want to do that, but I'm doing it because I want to earn a living, and it's a core function, I guess. So I'm doing it.
Well, that's great. Are you spending more time on video chats or Zoom meetings with clients? Was that something you were doing prior? Are you doing more of it now since there's less outside activity as opposed to inside the home?
Okay, so so I never really used kind of these Zoom or GoToMeeting stuff before. I didn't really use it. And there's so now when people are like, hey, let's have a conference call, they'll be like, hey, let's just do a Zoom call. I'm like, okay, so now we have some people that are using Zoom when you could still just do a regular phone call.
Sure.
Okay. But the other thing is that, so like, for instance, tomorrow I'm taking out some clients in Hinsdale to go look at 6 homes. And on Monday this week, we had a Zoom so I could show them the neighborhoods and talk about it, and I could draw on the map and do. This is all stuff I would have done while we were driving around, except I won't be in the same car as them.
Right.
So I can't do that. So Zoom I'm using it for neighborhood tours, I guess, for all intent and purposes, to visually show somebody what I'm saying. When normally I would have done that in the same vehicle as them.
Yeah. How are you staying in touch? More, I know you're busy. You're selling a home a week, which is absolutely incredible. But in your downtime, or in the more time you might have now from not running around as much outside, are you staying in touch more with your clients? How are you using again, I know you're busy, but in some of that additional time, how are you spending it?
So I'm trying to stay in touch with I'm trying not to change my marketing plan that I set last fall for 2020. Okay. So all of my touch points are the same. The only difference is that some of the events that I normally would be talking to people at, I can't do that. So I'm trying to keep touches going in different ways. I walk my dog. I see people around town. It's a critical part of my job, believe it or not.
Sure.
So I have been shooting some videos to explain how I work, and I've been posting those on Facebook. I've been posting those on my YouTube channel. I recently posted a video about what the MLS private network is.
Sure.
And why it's important specifically right now, and how it's going to be important moving forward. And so I'm trying to provide content on social media, and I'm trying to, but I'm not, one thing I'm not great at is sharing every little thing about my family on Facebook.
Right.
Like, I have never typed into Facebook something like this, which is like my pet peeve, like, 13 years ago today, I married the most wonderful person in the history of the world. I've never done that. I can't stand those things. And so like, that's probably one of my biggest bugaboos, is that like, I like conversing with people, but you're just showing off. You're just telling people stuff. It's just brutal.
Yeah. Look at my beautiful meal I'm eating. Yeah.
So that's been hard, but it's actually pushed me to use social media, which is something that I just haven't wanted to do much, but this situation has forced my hand. So like, I always think that you can always learn something from every situation, and this is what I'm going to learn how to do. Because eventually we're going to go back to more of a regular reality. It might not be till 2021, but we will. And hopefully I won't forget to use some of these new channels that I've learned.
Well, it is an opportunity, I think, to develop additional skills right now. And I want to just honor you again for, or not again, but honor you for what you said about creating content, because I think ultimately, you know, that's maybe the best use of social media is to connect with people, of course, but also to provide content to the people, especially if you're a business. And in this case, we're talking to realtors who are a business. You know, Jan mentioned the private listing network, or, you know, that's what we call it here in the Chicagoland area. Not every area has one of these, but this is really important because you created content explaining it to people. And I'm guessing 99% of the public has no idea what that is. And from watching your videos, they're going to learn. And it's a relatively newer thing for real estate here in Chicago. And it's very important, especially as you mentioned right now. And just educating clients on things like this. I guess now we have a little bit more time to help create some of this content that maybe we don't when we're running around as much. So yeah, that's awesome.
Well, and I'll say this about our local MLS. You know, the National Association of Realtors, I think, was established here in Chicago. I think it was created here. Mm-hmm. And I think the MLS was invented here. I think Chicago's been at the cutting edge of that. And one thing that's really awesome about our MLS here is that we have one huge MLS for everything.
Yeah, we're lucky.
You go to like New York, I think they have like multiple different MLSs in the same city.
So New York doesn't even have a real MLS, but Atlanta has like 2 or 3. So New York doesn't even have one. I mean, they have other things, but they don't even have an actual. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah, and it makes it much more difficult to see an organized, you know, a list aggregation of all of these listings. It makes it almost impossible to figure out.
Yeah, well, and that's why I thought that the topic of like the private MLS was, you know, people need to know how it works so that it can be used to their advantage.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a great place to wrap up. You've provided so much value to our listeners, and I really appreciate all your guidance. I know our fans are going to be huge fans of yours just from listening to this interview. But I also want to mention that obviously Jan is never too busy to talk with you. If you are someone who is looking to work with him or his team, he's got a team. His wife's on his team. He's got other team members as well. And Jan, if there are any buyers, sellers, investors, renters that are out your way or looking in your area in the Clarendon Hills and surrounding communities from there, what's the best way someone should reach out to you?
The best way is to text me or call me. My number is 630-624-6100. I just think that's the easiest. It's my personal cell phone. I give it out to everybody. And so I try to turn it off. Lately, I've been putting on airplane mode at 10 o'clock, and then I turn it back on at 7. But that's the easiest way to reach me. And thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, and also you can email Jan directly at Jan, which is JAN at Morel, again, MOREL homes.com. Please visit his team's website, which is morelhomes.com. And also follow Jan on both Facebook. Just search for Jan Morel. You'll find his business page there, as well as on YouTube. Just do a search. We'll post a link to it. But Jan Morel at YouTube. You can watch some of these videos that Jan is creating and has created, and you know, that is consistent with his brand and his level of success. And I've always said success leaves clues, you know, and our listeners, they do that when they hear an interview they go follow people's YouTube and Facebook, and they want to see what you're posting. So now the pressure's on to keep pumping out that content just for our listeners. But on behalf of our listeners, Jan, we want to say thank you. I was telling Jan before that I grew up in an area that morel mushrooms were a big, big deal, and they very rarely came around. So I was joking with him about that. But if everyone listening, if you ever get a chance to have a morel mushroom, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, like, run head first towards it because it's a very, very big deal. And also, so on behalf of the listeners, Jan, thanks for everything you've shared. And also on behalf of Jan and myself to the listeners, we want to say thank you for continuing to listen and support our show. We really appreciate everyone tuning in. And then we ask just that you do two quick things for us, for everyone listening, before we sign off. Number one, think of tell a friend, think of another real estate professional that could benefit from having heard this particular episode with Jan, and send it over to them. If you know another agent that's, whether they're struggling or new to the business or just wanting to get to the next level, send them over. We actually just revamped our website. You can send them right over to our website, keepingitrealpod.com, or just pull up any podcast app, search for Keeping It Real. We'll pop right up. And then second, follow us as well on Facebook. You can find us at facebook.com/Keeping It Real Pod. Not only do we post links to all of our episodes, but every single day we find an article that someone's written online designed to help you grow your business, and we post it there. So there's no filler. It's all, I guess, all fat. They say all fat, no filler. Please follow us there as well. So Jan, thank you so much. We really appreciate your participation. You're a great guest, and we wish you, I'd wish you continued success, but you don't need it. So just keep doing what you're doing. And we're excited to continue to watch your progress.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you.